Today we are going to start learning about famous Americans, and we're going to read about one of my favorite famous Americans, Helen Keller. So we're going to read this book called I Am Helen Keller by Brad Meltzer. It reads like Helen Keller's the one writing the story because it says I all the time, but it's actually the author telling the story of Helen Keller. When I was little, I was just like you. I loved to play. I loved my dog, and I loved seeing all the bright, beautiful flowers. I also loved copying people. At 6 months old, I could already say, howdy, tea, tea, tea. On the day I turned 1, I started walking. Oh, and there was another word I always loved, wah-wah. Here's your water, just like any other kid, right? There's one thing that made me different. When I was 19 months old, I got very sick. The doctor said I wouldn't live. I did live, but the sickness made me blind and deaf. Blind and can't speak. She's deaf and can't. This is how I see my world. Close your eyes and block your ears. I couldn't see anything or hear anything. That's right, nothing. So imagine if your world. I know it seems scary. It was scary for me too. Back then, people didn't know how to deal with someone who was deaf and blind. My relatives thought I was a monster. They were right. I wasn't well behaved. I threw my silverware. I behaved poorly. I stuck my hand in other people's food. I was extremely frustrated in my dark world, and I couldn't tell if anyone noticed me or cared about me. I couldn't see or hear what I was doing. By the time I was 5, I figured out small ways to communicate, to say yes. I nodded my head for no, and shook it to I nodded my head to say yes. For no, I shook it side to side. To say father, I motioned to put on glasses. For mother, I rested my hand on my face. For my baby sister, I did this. And when I shivered like it was cold, I really meant ice cream. But even with those signs, I couldn't get my dog Belle to play with me. I didn't know how to speak, so I couldn't call her. I just wanted to play with my dog. The saddest part was I got used to the dark and silent world. People told my parents to give up on me, that I'd never be good at anything. They didn't listen, though. After reading about another blind and deaf girl, my parents found something that they hadn't since I'd gotten sick, hope. This says there's places that teach deaf and blind children. That's what she needs. She needs a teacher. We all do. Everybody needs a teacher. Still, I had no idea what the world was about to bring me. Look, she's got a Boston Terrier dog. But I had before. I never had a more important day. I was 6 years old. From the way my mother was hurrying, I knew something big was coming. I stood on the porch waiting, feeling the sun on my face. Someone approached. I could feel the footsteps. I reached out thinking it was my mother. She pulled me into her arms. Her name was Ann Sullivan. She's the teacher who changed my life. In one of her first lessons, she gave me a toy doll. After letting me play with it, she spelled the word doll into the palm of my hand. Can you feel the letters? I could feel them, but I didn't know what the letters or words were, or how they worked. It didn't stop Miss Sullivan. She showed perseverance, and she kept trying. One day, we were arguing as she was trying to teach me the words mug and water. I got so upset I took my new doll and smashed it to the ground. I got angry a lot back then. It was hard for me. I was frustrated. Never losing her patience, my teacher took me outside. At the nearby spout, she put my hand under the running water. In my other hand, she spelled the word water. Then she spelled it again, water, and again, water, and again, water, and again, water, and again, water, 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 water. You don't understand. You understand! I understood. So look how they had to keep trying until Helen takes a little bit longer to get things. But I'm sure she felt so excited to finally be able to understand. From there, I realized that everything had a name. Every object I touched seemed to burst to life. And now, when I wrote words in my teacher's hand, I had someone who could understand me. When you're learning something new, it's often hard. I started with words. My vocabulary grew fast. Eventually, I learned the meaning of the word love. I had given my teacher some flowers, so she spelled into my hand, "I love Helen." Confused, I asked her, "What is love?" "It is here," she spelled while tapping at my heart. It was hard to understand something I couldn't touch. It made no sense. Why couldn't my teacher show me love? "Then," she explained, "you don't touch the clouds, but you feel the rain, and you know how happy flowers are to get watered. This is love. You can't touch love, but you can feel how happy it makes you." There, in that moment, my whole world changed. It was as if there were an invisible line stretched between me and everyone else in my life. Close your eyes. You can feel it too, your connection to your family and your friends. Still, life was never very easy. Without sight, I couldn't feel people's faces. Without sound, I couldn't hear the voices. But one of the greatest breakthroughs came when I learned to do what you are doing right now, reading. Reading without eyes? How's she going to do that? You'll read with your fingers on cardboard. You'll feel the raised dots. The dots make letters. The letters make words. The word is for doll. To practice, I'd match each word with its object and make sentences. This was my favorite game. We played it for hours. See if you can find the sentence, "Girl is in wardrobe." So she put around her room that she knew what everything. From there, I started reading real books just like you. The only difference was that my books were in Braille, which is a series of raised dots that you read with your fingers. Go ahead and try. Move your pointer finger over the dots below. So in my book, the dots are actually bumpy or raised, and I can feel Helen's name. At first, it feels just bumpy, right? You'll get used to it. Those dots spell my name, Helen. Once you read your name in Braille, here's the alphabet. Run your pointer finger over the letters. Now close your eyes. There you go. You're reading just like me. And stay, boys and girls. You got some beans in a baggie when you went home, and you got this paper right here. So you guys are going to get to make your name in Braille by following the Braille chart up here, and then you will be able to feel what your name is like in Braille. Very cool. To make reading even more fun, my teacher took me outside. She knew I loved feeling the sun on my face and smelling the pine needles. I read my books so many times I wore down the raised dots. There were the Arabian Nights, Robin Crusoe, and one of my favorites, Little Women. In those pages, I met some brave boys and girls and could hear and see. So she used her visualizing to help her hear and see things in books, and that's why she loved them. One of Miss Sullivan's best lessons came when she showed me how to grow plants. Feel the buds. Some buds open fast, others open slow. A flower can only bloom if it's watered. When I was 9 years old, I learned how to speak. Miss Sullivan was worried about teaching me. She thought I'd get frustrated, but nothing would stop me now. To help me, Miss Sullivan took me to a teacher named Sarah Fuller, who would put her hand to her face and let me feel her tongue and her lips as she made each sound. She would feel her mouth so that she could feel the sounds. In an hour, she learned ah, eh. She would feel the vibrations so she knew what letter it was. Oops. Now I could call my dog and she'd come to me. At the seventh lesson, I spoke the sentence I'll repeat over and over. I am not dumb now. So she felt like she was dumb before, and this makes her feel like she is smart and can do things. As I got older, I didn't learn just to speak English. I learned French and German. For college, I wanted to go to Radcliffe at Harvard University. At Harvard, most of the books weren't available in Braille, so Miss Sullivan spelled out many of the textbooks in my hand. That's how much I loved learning. So to learn, the teacher had to spell every single word in the book in her hand, but she still wanted to learn. That's how patient and selfless Miss Sullivan was. So Miss Sullivan was very important to her in her life. I became the first blind and deaf person to earn a college degree, and I wouldn't be the last. As I grew older, I wrote 12 books and visited 34 countries. But the most important thing I did was to make sure that other people with disabilities could get the same education I had. That was only the beginning. I didn't just help the blind and deaf. I started fighting for social change to help women vote, to help the poor survive, and to help people who needed it the most. Today, the American Foundation of Blind and Helen Keller International continue to help the blind and hungry. She was also one of the first national advancement. In my life, they said I was different. They said I'd never be normal, but the truth is there's no such thing as a normal life. Everyone is like a flower that must be watered. Every one of us is full of potential. We can be things, and every one of us can overcome obstacles. Helen Keller overcame a lot of obstacles in her life. She was blind and deaf, and she learned how to read words in her hands. Then she learned how to read Braille, and then she learned sounds and was able to speak, which is amazing. Look at me, hear my words. I may not be able to see, but I have a vision. I may not be able to hear, but I have a voice. Think of your life as a hill that must be climbed. There's no correct path to get to the top. We all zigzag in our own ways. At some point, you'll slip and fall. You'll tumble back down again. But if you get back up and keep climbing, I promise you will reach the top. Don't let anything hold you back. Our lives are what we make of them. There will always be obstacles, things in our way, but there will always be ways around them. I am Helen Keller, and I won't let anything stop me. And oh, one last thing. Go say thank you to your teacher who helped you when you needed it the most. And then here's some real pictures of Helen Keller at 8 with the dog. And then that is her meeting with Roosevelt. And then we have a nonfiction text feature, the timeline of her life. So I thought that book was amazing. It was really encouraging. We have to remember that we are climbing a hill, and sometimes things might happen and get in our way, but we just want to keep trying. So when you're having trouble in school or something's hard, think about Helen Keller and what she overcame, and you can do it too. So Helen Keller is known for overcoming obstacles in her life. So she overcame being deaf and blind and was able to learn how to communicate. And then she went on to help other people that were blind and deaf, to get them an education, to get them what they needed. She fought for them. So Helen Keller is an awesome example of somebody who has worked hard in their life to be the best they can be. So today, I hope you enjoy being able to make your name. So you're going to look above the chart for each letter, and you're going to glue down the just like that square, and then you can feel what your name would feel like in Braille. Now in Braille, it wouldn't be raised that much, but you still get to get an idea of what it would feel like to have to read Braille. Do you think you could teach yourself how to read in Braille? Or even speak 3 languages when you couldn't even speak? She is so amazing. And so let's live every day to work just as hard as Helen Keller to be the best that we can be.